Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Norwalk. I'm Mayor Rilling. You probably know that by now. Don't take this the wrong way. We love having you here, but we hope you don't come back for a while. But this was a remarkable recovery, and as you can see behind me, this is a real team effort. A lot of people had part in this to get this done so quickly. We're absolutely amazed that this was repaired. They originally said Monday morning for rush hour, which would have been this morning, but it happened 10 o'clock yesterday morning. They opened this up, and it was just remarkable that this was done in such a quick turnaround. And there are a lot of people to thank, but the one person that I want to bring forward to thank, because it was his team, his response, his call to me in the morning that really got this rolling, and that's Governor Lamont. Governor?
Hey, Harry, it's Mike called you in the morning, and these are the guys that did all the work. We came down here on Friday to meet you guys, and it was hell getting here. You remember that? The hours and hours of delays. Look at the traffic here on 95, moving fast in both directions. Too often in government, you have politicians who overpromise and underdeliver. Not the people standing behind me here. These guys over-delivered. In less than 80 hours, they took a bridge that was destroyed, fire burning up, fire department right here, got down there, got the fire out. Then we had the state police come in, do the criminal investigation, to see what we had to do. The energy and environment had to come, make sure no poisons were flowing into the water. And then we had contractors from Yonkers and beyond. They came in here, had to move in the heavy equipment, despite incredible traffic. This was 3 days ago. And look, they got that bridge down, timely basis. They got northbound going, then they got southbound going. They got southbound going on Sunday, time for church. This was an amazing work of art. Too often people sell, government short. This is a team that I'm so proud of getting the job done, and in particular, Garrett Eucalito. Garrett's in charge of about $1 billion extra a year for infrastructure. That's fixing our roads and bridges, and it just shows you the type of work they have done. I just hope to God this never happens again. And God, if it does happen again, take out one of those 100-year-old bridges, not one of the brand new bridges that was the one that was just taken out. But seriously, hats off to the people that got this done on a timely basis, keeping us safe, rush hours working. And wouldn't be able to do it with our friends in Washington, D.C., Senator Dick Blumenthal. Thanks.
Thank you, Governor. If Washington is looking for a model, come to Connecticut. A model of teamwork. A symphony of teamwork that went to work on this project over the weekend. Guys behind me here have been without sleep for quite a while. And as good as they look, those guys in the yellow vests have given time, effort, energy over this weekend in this kind of symphony of teamwork to make it possible for the bridge to come down, the remains to be removed, for traffic to be resumed. Now, the next chapter. And that reconstruction of this bridge, we want to make sure is done at the expense of the federal government. The federal government ought to bear the major part of the burden here, and we're going to demand that the Federal Highway Relief Fund this project so that Connecticut taxpayers don't bear the burden. The Federal Highway Administration has a fund that is exactly for this purpose. And we as a delegation sent a letter on Friday to the Secretary of Transportation demanding that it be forthcoming and fund its full share of the cost of reconstructing this bridge. It may be $20 million, it may be a bit more. Whatever it costs, the federal government ought to bear the major, if not all, the major part of that cost so Connecticut taxpayers are spared that burden. And we want to make sure that businesses that are affected have whatever relief that the federal government can provide as well. There's going to be disruption in traffic. No question that access to some of these businesses is going to be constrained over the year that it takes to reconstruct that bridge. And our hope is that the disruption will be minimal and that whatever federal relief can be provided to those businesses is made available. Finally, let me just say, these guys spent a lot of time. They were away from their families. They devoted that time cheerfully, and they should be spared the risk of traffic delays, and people ought to be respectful when the contractors or DOT folks are at work on the roads. Slow down, move over. Make sure that safety is on your mind when you see people at work on the highways. Slow down, move over, save lives. Respect the work that these guys are doing because they're devoting their time, they're putting a lot of effort in it. They shouldn't have to risk their lives. If you see them at work, you can avoid the kinds of crashes that occur literally every day in America because people speed by these sites without respect for the guys who are on the job doing the work. We're all familiar with the kinds of complaints that we have about government. People love to complain about state government and federal government, but this is an example, it's a success story that people ought to take away and say, these guys deserve respect. They deserve thanks. They're the ones who made it happen. And leading them was the Commissioner of our State Department of Transportation, Garrett Eucalito. Proud to introduce him now.
Thank you, Senator. So I think you heard a lot of people talk about teamwork. That really is what this was from our fellow state agencies, from our local partners, even communicating with our peer state DOTs from Maryland all the way up to Massachusetts to coordinate messaging, and the Federal Highway Administrator in constant communication. I will say normally the sound behind us gets a lot of complaints. Highway noise, I think today's probably the only day we're not going to get complaints about highway noise, so I'm going to relish that. But now we also move into the next phase, which is the reconstruction and rebuilding of the Fairfield Avenue Bridge. So our team has been working over the weekend to begin to finalize what's our preliminary design for rebuilding. So while our highway operations and maintenance team was out here, in the response, construction engineers were out here for the demolition. The Yonkers crews came down from other job sites nearby. And a big shout out to Yonkers. They're hiding behind the press right now, but they're here on site and they deserve a lot of credit. Their crews are the one doing the demolition. And then our engineers designing the future bridge were working all over the weekend to make sure that we don't let a minute lapse. So I just want to thank everyone for the cooperation that made this possible. So thank you.
As you can see, this took federal, state, and local partnerships, and that's the way things work. A person who has always been here for Norwalk and for the state, trying to do everything that he can to make sure that Norwalk's quality of life is second to none, and that is Senator Bob Duff, the Majority Leader of the Connecticut Senate.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. We knew when we heard about this accident on Thursday that it was going to be a traffic nightmare for the people of the city of Norwalk, including all over the place. And so first and foremost, I want to thank the people of Norwalk for their patience and understanding over the last few days while there was gridlock really throughout the city and people were trying to navigate their way through. Many people here in the city stayed off the roads wisely so that others could get off the highway and on the highway safely and not add to the extra traffic that was out there. So I appreciate all the patience of the people of the city of Norwalk. Secondly, of course, We do have to thank our DOT workers and Yonkers, our state police, our local police, and our local firefighters. Everybody worked very well together, and I appreciate our local police who used a lot of technology to monitor traffic flow to ensure that they were doing everything possible to keep cars moving to the best extent possible. Lastly, I'll just say that yesterday was National Fallen Firefighter Day, and that honors firefighters who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Now, thankfully, nobody got injured or passed away through this accident. But watching those flames from that fire from a trucker, that truck that lost thousands and thousands of gallons of fuel, and the firefighters who bravely fought that fire to bring it under control, merits recognition for what they have done, and be able to do that in a safe manner and in a manner that kept everybody else harm-free. So I appreciate all of our first responders for what they did to keep the area safe and to keep traffic moving and to keep the city safe. Lastly, I wanted to thank Commissioner Eucalito especially for setting up that webcam that literally everybody watched over the weekend. And I said earlier that it was like watching the Truman Show, because if you remember that movie, like an entire city was watching Jim Carrey, and that was pretty much how it was. We had people all over the place just tell me that they were addicted to that webcam, watching the progress being made, and people were so happy to see that open up earlier than expected. So Garrett, thank you, Commissioner, for being so transparent in this process. And then lastly, of course, the mayor and his team, and the Governor Lamont and his team. This cannot be done without good leadership from the executive branch, whether it's local or state. So thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mayor, for your work on this as well, and making sure that this got done and open on time, actually early. And the people of Norwalk are extremely, extremely happy. So thank you very, very much. Sorry. And I'm speaking also on behalf of my colleagues in the legislature. We have Representative Dominique Johnson here and Representative Kadeem Roberts, and we've all been communicating together about this, and I appreciate all their work and efforts as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So we're going to open it up to questions, but again, I want to thank everybody behind me, Norwalk Police, Norwalk Fire. Everybody was on the scene within a couple of minutes and taking control, making sure that this is going to be handled as quickly as possible. And they do that because they're professional, they know what they had to do, and they did it. So now we'll open it up to questions.
Do you have a timeline of when that construction for the bridge rebuild might start?
Don't have a timeline for starting yet because it depends on materials, but our goal is to have design finalized in the next couple weeks, and to have the rebuild with it ribbon cutting within the next year.
Is accelerated bridge construction an option here?
No, accelerated bridge construction doesn't work here. We'd have to have space to build the span on site to roll it in, and we don't have space here in this area. No, we think it's probably around 2 million or so, maybe up to 3 million. But until we get all the bills in from all the different parties, we won't know. We think the total cost will be upwards around $20 million, cleanup and rebuild.
Yeah, over the past couple of days, we've had the Norwalk Fire Department, Norwalk Police Department, keeping track of all their expenses, which would be overtime and other kinds of things, so that we can get reimbursement. So again, it won't fall on the backs of the local taxpayers.
Give us a sense of how the crews were able to do it so quickly. I mean, they far exceeded expectations. What enabled them to do that?
So it really was the ability to mobilize forces really quickly. We had a great partner with Yonkers, which is working on a project right nearby. Our chief engineer and our construction administrator immediately mobilized to contact them. They were able to bring some equipment that was nearby to start the initial demolition. The real heavy, the shears that came to do the final piece of demolition, that had to come from New York. Yonkers was able to mobilize that. State police helped with police escorts to get those pieces of equipment up here. But really it was just the proximity, having people nearby that we could mobilize quickly and efficiently to start that demolition.
So hindsight is 20/20, and I'm sure
So I don't know. That's a question for state police, but I've thought about that too myself. But then people have reminded me, if I was driving a truck with 8,500 gallons of gasoline and I looked in my rearview window and it was on fire, I'd probably pull over wherever and get out of that truck as quickly as possible.
Can I ask someone from Norwalk Fire, as you do your after action, do you have, looking back now, did you have everything you needed, or is there something on your wish list now, God forbid this should happen again?
Good morning. So if I got the question correct, you said, is there any resources that we did not have that we needed?
Yeah, anything on your wish list now going forward?
No, I mean, I think we were fortunate to be able to call on the regional resources that we did, including the surrounding departments, our partners at the fire and safety team at King Industries. We were able to get enough firefighting resources on the scene, enough foam on the scene quickly to be able to take care of the incident and in the manner that we did. My hat is off to all of the agencies who came in to assist the Norwalk Fire Department in mitigating this incident, but particularly to the first fire officers and the first firefighters who arrived on scene. They made very good tactical decisions early on, which allowed the incident to end with good results. And given the scope of this incident and the magnitude of it, that's really nothing short of remarkable. So to answer your question, we did have the resources that we needed because of the mutual aid partnerships that we already had in place.
What were one or two of the key tactical decisions you just referenced?
The key tactical decisions would have been to start cooling the truck with the water streams that they had initially, to start cooling the bridge to prevent it from collapsing, and then being able to get a foam engine on scene quickly. And it was really the foam engine and the foam lines from both sides of the bridge that were able to extinguish the fire.
Can you talk more about how challenging this was to fight this fire?
Well, certainly it's a challenge. It's not a type of incident that happens very often, but it is something that we train for. We do have procedures in place for this type of incident on the highway, and so the first responders really fell back on their training. They knew what resources to call for, and they knew how to approach it effectively and safely.
Yes.
Thank you.
I might just say, putting out the fire was a tremendous achievement, but equally important was containing the spill. The river is nearby. There could have been a major environmental disaster without the expert quick work that the fire department and the city of Norwalk devoted here. So often we focus on the disaster and the flames and the burning, but the success story here is what didn't happen, which is a major contamination of the river and Long Island Sound.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll have to do a few lane closures at various points throughout the year period, but it definitely won't be as disruptive as what we just encountered. We're looking at a lane closure, maybe a center lane or a left lane closure near the pier, or a right lane closure near the abutments. But that's normal during construction process, but it won't be long term or too disruptive.
Do you have a timeline for taking down the pier? It's really the only thing we can see left of the bridge.
No, we don't. So that's going to be a part of the design process that we're undergoing right now. How do we incorporate a new pier structure in that new design, and then we'll figure out stage that during the construction process.
Thank you, everybody.